Welcome back to the sim. In this one, we're hopping into the working title CJ4, but before we take off, we're going to get it all set up with the cockpit-master CDU, now that there is a working title mod for the mod that allows you to get the CDU data out of the system. It's based on the exact same thing that they did for the fly-by-wire, and this one, though, was done by Demented Monkey. Before we jump into how to get this set up and configured, so the cockpit-master or cockpit simulator 737 CDU, the thing that makes this one special compared to a lot of the other ones on the market is this: the fact that it's all done over USB. And if your power supply plugged into your hub has enough power, then you don't even need an auxiliary power jack plugged in at the same time. So I power everything right off the USB. And so what makes this so incredible is when tying it together with SPAD.neXt, we don't need to use an HDMI output from our computer to drive the screen. And SPAD is now not only able to replace the cockpit-master software, which supported prepared 3D and some planes along with X-plane and a certain number of planes there. Now you have full support of all of the aircrafts through X-plane and the standard FMC, but it's also got full support for PMDGs, Q400s, and a few other planes in P3D. And then one thing that you don't have at all with the cockpit-master software is Microsoft Flight Sim support. So it's really cool that SPAD was adding that, and we've got it for the Aerosoft CRJ, we've got it for the fly-by-wire now, and of course with the Demented Monkey mod, we also have it for the CJ4. And there's some others coming like the default Boeings, but for now, hey, let's look at the working title CJ4. So when you come over to the Demented Monkey CJ4 MCDU project, and we come down to the installation, it's pretty straightforward. Make sure you install the CJ4, and it does say that this was done as of 12.11, but the reality is the current release is 0.12.12, and it works perfectly fine with it. So you head on over to the working title site if you haven't downloaded the working title CJ4, and then what you want to do is download their software, and as it says, inside of the zip you will find a folder, Demented Monkey, which you are going to drag into your community folder. And if you wanted to use the MCDU with external web browsers, so even a tablet, well, you can run their EXE server, which will then open up a web port, allowing you to connect anything on your network, even the local computer, and drive it through a web browser. Since we're using SPAD.neXt and the cockpit-master CDU directly, we'll never run this piece. So let's go ahead and get it downloaded. So come over here on the right, go to latest release, and you're going to find there is the download zip. So go ahead and download it. You'll notice I've already got it here. And once you've downloaded it, you're going to want to open up those folders. So on the left-hand side, I have my community quarantine. It's just the folder that I downloaded the zip folder to. So make sure you open up the zip and you will have your two different folders. You'll notice this Z-Monkey. Right below it is the contents. So as normal, you want to drag this over into your packages community folder. So inside of my packages community folder, I now have my Z Demented Monkey CJ4, and as you can see, one layer deep is where you want to see the content info and then the HTML UI that it's going to override. Now, the thing to understand, the reason for this Z-Demented Monkey is the way the community folder loads, it does it in alphabetical order. So anytime you have a mod for a mod that needs to supersede it, just like the Kodiak mod is named so that it'll be after the SWS aircraft Kodiak, and then that way this will override that and change out the ESI mod. So for Demented Monkey CJ4 MCDU mod, he needed it that you make sure to have it load after the working title aircraft does. And so that's why the need for the Z. Now you can go ahead, you can fire up Microsoft Flight Sim, and then we'll jump into that and get going on the next part. While Microsoft Flight Sim is up, and now we've opened up SPAD.neXt, we need to do two things. One, if we haven't yet, well, we have to actually set up the CDU so that SPAD is configured to talk to it. And don't forget, if you did have the cockpit-master software installed, you need to shut that down. So you want to go to your settings, you want to go to your devices, and under other devices, you will find the enable cockpit-master support. With version 9.12.26, which is an alpha, and you have to be on the alpha to get the CDU support anyway, but you'll notice on this newer version, you've got slots for setting the different display and key brightness for when there's power on or power off for the virtual type power. Once you've enabled this, you will have to restart so that SPAD will launch again and start communicating with the CDU. Once you've done that, you're going to be able to head over to your panels section and you'll find the CDU is now available. Now obviously mine's already configured, but the easiest way, if you want to just do what I'm doing here in the video, click on any button and you're going to go to online snippets. Go ahead and leave it for only for current aircraft. Look for the complete CDU Boeing and you're going to find from today's date, the 20th, CJ4 version 12.12, this is what we've covered here in the video. So you would go ahead, you would click OK, and you're going to replace all events on the device and hit yes, and it'll put everything on it exactly like I've got it. Note, mine is based off of the default Connex unit, just with some changes specifically needed currently for the CJ4, though as fixes are added, some of these things will disappear. Quick example, the period. So the dot wasn't using the default key command, didn't pass through to the dot, so I changed it to the specific H event and overrode it. Of course, in a couple more updates, that might work and this can be switched back. Now, if you're not seeing any data yet, this could be because after getting it up and running, getting it configured, you have to make sure that your settings are correct for the application. So when we come to our application settings, you want to make sure that the web is enabled so that it's allowed to use web services. Next, you go to Microsoft 2020, and you want to make sure that you've enabled fly-by-wire WebSockets. And the first port, 8380, that is for the fly-by-wire. That's the default port they use, though fly-by-wire lets you change this number in the FlyPad, and therefore you could change it here as to what you wanted to connect on. However, for the CJ4, Demented Monkey has it hard-coded to 8088. Now, one thing that I did differently in my configuration, and this is what you'll note, I'll enable the Lego block, so as I press buttons, the GUI is going to automatically follow. But what you'll notice is the default unit used the menu key with a long press would take you back to the SPAD CDU menu. So you'll notice the left CDU is actually page 2. So if I hold down that button, it will take us to the SPAD menu, and this is where you can do all kinds of custom stuff as well. But basically the first 3 lines will automatically populate if there are multiple CDUs and it's receiving the events. So here, the working title CJ4 only has the one left side CDU or CDU 0, whereas say a PMDG 777 would have a CDU 0, 1, and 2 for left, right, and center. So if I was on this screen, I would be able to click the line select key, and that is going to connect me to the index 0 CDU. So there we go. Of course, we're already being served up the data because the WebSocket ports send the data even with the avionics not on. But I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to get the battery on, and I'm going to get the avionics on, and let's go ahead and jump into So looking at the CDU, which is great, obviously it's backlit buttons, line select, these are rubber, it has a great feel. It's a very cool unit, and the display is great. One thing to note, we are obviously remapping things to try to find the best approach. Now, what you'll find is there is one fewer line of display at the text. So right now, you don't see the messages line with initialize position that you see in the GUI, or in the virtual cockpit, I should say. And that's okay. There is a workaround that with an update currently works with the Aerosoft CRJ, not yet implemented for the CJ4. That's coming soon though. But basically we have a button which will toggle between which row you are viewing here. And with the CJ4, what currently happens is when something populates the message line, the message LED actually lights up, and it switches over to it so we can see it for 15 seconds, I believe, and then it'll automatically switch back to the scratch pad. So right now, this is the scratch pad, and then it would flip between the two. So real quick, we're going to walk down what we've got here. Now, with all of these keys, there are default CDU events, and the purpose of that is so that on the back end, SPAD.next will map those to the planes events. So here we're sending a CJ4 line select key event, but SPAD's already interpreted that for us. So it's already done the linking underneath. It knows it's talking to the CJ4, and therefore it sends the correct events. And so the concept there is hoping to use generic keys, and then in the most part automatically being able to remap it underneath, so you're not constantly having to remap it yourself, which is kind of nice. So we'll see here the line select key L1. Great. Here I've also though got, like I mentioned, a long hold is going to take us back to the main menu so we can go back into it. Great. You've got your line select 2 key, 3, 4, 5, and 6 for the left-hand side of the unit. So one of the biggest things with taking obviously something that's meant for a 737 and using it with the working title CJ4 is coming up with things that make sense. So the labels on these buttons don't always match the labels that you see in the CDU for the call-ins. So what I've done is tried to map them the way I like it. You can change this mapping all you want. That's the beauty of SPAD.next. But if you're using mine, this is how it's laid out. So the first button is the init ref. And because this is actually the performance menu, init ref, references are inside of it. So you got your performance init in there. So I thought, well, let's go ahead and map that. So the init ref is the equivalent of pressing the perf key here. Menu made sense to tie that to the IDX key, since that is the menu for the CDU is the IDX key. N1 limit, since we don't have N1 limit with regards to any buttons on the call-ins FMC, I decided to put the tune button for the radio frequencies there as well. So there's your radio, there's your tune control, away you go. Now we've got previous page and next page. So obviously those buttons made sense to map them to the previous and next functions inside of the sim. So coming up to this top of the column, route. Well, it made sense to map the route to the flight plan button. Flight plan route. Legs. Hey, great, there's a legs page, no problem. Then what we did was we used the fix key to map to the direct key. So fix is actually sending the direct key. Since I want to go to a fix, I want to go direct to a fix. Kind of made sense for me to use the fix key for that. Departure and arrival is going to map to the same departure and arrival key. Now where we did something different was I wanted to keep the display menu, MFD advance, and MFD data together. So we mapped those to the climb, cruise, and descent buttons. So since those don't have anything to map to inside of the CJ4, that worked out nicely. Then we've got our progress, and progress is, well, going to take us to messages, because the messages page is kind of makes sense to be, well, the progress page. Then you've got your execute key, which we've got right here. And then we've got the brightness key for turning up the brightness of this unit. So you've got your brightness plus, your brightness minus. And if you hold it, it'll affect the key backlighting with a long hold instead of a short press. Short press is the display. When you look at the letters, and we'll come back to execute in a moment, but when you look at the letters, what you'll notice is, again, these are using these default key events. So the letters and numbers were able to map to the default key events just fine. Nothing special had to be done there. With the decimal, I did have to change it to the dedicated CJ4H event because currently it's not mapped under the hood. So once ConnX fixes that and SPAD.next is able to redirect them, you won't need it. But I always run profiles for all my different planes, and because of that, I'm not really worried about having to flip it back later on. Plus and minus was another key I had to remap, whereas A through Z all maps perfectly to the standard keys. And then you've got space, and that was a special event I had to remap because the space doesn't map directly. Same with the delete. And there is a long event for the clear. And again, when you look at the CJ4, you see that clear and delete is a single key. So we put the same event of clear and delete on both. And if you hold it for a long period of time, slash was special. If you hold this for a long period of time, it of course will clear out the scratch pad. One of the neat ways about how the execute works. So let's say we wanted to go to our route and we want to start putting in our route. So we're currently at CYKZ. So we put that in, and we're going to CYOW. So we go ahead and we put that in. So that information's all in. We're going to pick 15. We're going to go with the Kepta 3 like we had. But what's important is this piece that's really neat. We see now that when execute shows up inside of the sim, it's mapping it to the LED so that it is lit. And as soon as we execute it, it will go out. And of course, we've now got our legs page, and we've got our fly runway 15, vectors, and then it's a discontinuity, obviously, because we would be on vectors, but it would be to Rycom. We can go to our departures. We're done with that. Let's go to our arrival. Let's pick our arrival. For now, we won't put in a runway, but we're going to do the capital 5. We're going to do MyVoc transition. And of course, again, that execute lights up. So we go ahead and we click it. Again, once we get the ability to flip between the messages, you're going to find that I put that on the hold button. Since there was nothing else for the hold button, I chose that this will be the toggle that is going to allow me to toggle between the scratch pad and the message line. Well, guys, I'm about to hop into the CJ4 and bust out to Ottawa. If you have any comments or concerns, throw them into the comments. Let me know what you're thinking. If you haven't yet, please hit that like button. Go ahead and hit the subscribe. Come along for the next one. As always, thanks for watching. Have a great day.